Hello everybody, you're welcome to this unique sewing class. This class is organized by Mr. Emmanuel Umoru and Mr. Amikable Osage Osaran. We have decided to take this class just to enlighten people more who have interests in sewing. It has come to our notice that in the course of work, a lot of people seem to have challenges when you explain things to them. So we decided to have a video to explain various tasks you will encounter in the course of sewing. So right before you are some materials you will encounter as a beginner and even as a professional. In the course of your work, you will definitely encounter all these materials. And here we'll just have some of these materials on display for you to see. If you must sew, one very common thing that you may use is your sewing thread, and the sewing thread comes in different colors, in different sizes, and then you have your scissors in different sizes too, depending on what you want to do. As you can see, these are your cutting tools. You have a cutter, you also have a seam ripper, you have your scissors, and you have the zigzag, what we call the pinking shears. You can see the teeth of the scissors. You also have your measuring tool, which is your tape rule. Your tape rule comes in different calibrations. If you look at it closely, you will see that on your tape rule there are some measurements in inches and there are some in centimeters. On the one side you have your tape rule calibrated in inches, and on the other side you have it calibrated in centimeters. It doesn't matter which one you use. It's just that in modern times we deal with the metric system, and anything in centimeters goes in line with the metric system. The inches is the imperial system of measurement, but it's still very useful to us these days. Here you see a roll of bias that we have. Bias you can use in the course of finishing your work or to create decorative patterns on your clothes. You also have a set of rulers before you here, depending on what task you want to perform. If you're measuring fabric, you use your meter rule, which is the wooden ruler you're seeing on top of the other rulers. And then your set square, your T-square is also there, depending on what you want to do actually. You also have a metal or a steel ruler that is on the table too. So if you want to connect various points on your fabric in the course of marking, you can use your ruler to connect each of these points. Here you have your fusibles, what people call stay. If you go to the market now, you tell them you want to buy gum stay. I think that's a common language, but technically these things are called fusibles, and you have them in different forms. There's the gum stay, there's the hair stay. So depending on what you want to do, there are stays for different tasks. But as we progress in the course of this class, you will get to know which fusible is good for which task. We also have before you here a roll of papers, which we call the brown papers. The brown papers, we use them to make patterns, and these patterns actually is just to help us to achieve the different pieces we want to cut out from our fabric. Rather than you cutting directly on your fabric, you can do a pattern for the particular design that you have, and then you transfer that onto the fabric. That way, if there's any mistake, you will have noticed that on the paper before transferring it to the cloth, rather than you just go directly on the fabric and then you make a mistake, and that might just be a problem eventually. We also have before us here a set of needles, which is called the machine needle. if you can see. There's one on the table here. You can see clearly now. Yeah. And then we also have beside it another set of needles. These are hand needles. They are much different from the machine needles. It is only when you want to do finishings or you want to do things with your hand that you probably have to use the hand needle. These ones only work on the machine, as it were. Then here you have a can of oil, which is called the machine oil. You use this to lubricate your machines at different times so that all the metallic parts will not rub against each other. That's the machine oil. And here you have some marking tools. We have the tailor's chalk and we have the tracing wheel. The tailor's chalk is recommended for fabrics because it does not stay. So whenever you want to cut fabrics or you want to mark, you can use the tailor's chalk. This tracing wheel also is a marker. You can see it now. It doesn't destroy your fabric. It can only create markings on it, which can always be ironed out if need be. Here you also have zippers, which we have in different colors and in different lengths. The zippers, as we progress, you will understand what they are used for, but just get acquainted to these things. Beside the zippers here, you have some things, we call them the shuttle and the ruler. These are some parts of the sewing machine. Without these things, your machine cannot do anything for you. So these ones now are the reelers, while this one is the shuttle. The shuttle is actually, the reelers are actually placed inside the shuttle and then inserted into a compartment on the sewing machine before you start sewing. Here you have some pins. You have the office pin and what we call the thumb tacks. The office pin you can use to hold your fabric as a beginner because you really don't understand how to handle fabric. So for you to start sewing, you probably use the office pin to hold your fabric together temporarily so that it doesn't shift in the course of work. Then as you progress, you definitely need fabric. This is just a fold of fabric here, which we shall be using in the course of this exercise. Here we have pure white cotton. The essence why we're using pure white cotton is because as a beginner, you actually don't know much about fabric. So it is better you use a fabric that will not slip on the machine. If you use fabrics like chiffon, organza, you probably will run into serious problems. But for cotton, it's not slippery, so it's recommended for beginners to learn with. And the fact that it's white, we can actually see your mistakes easily and correct them. Then here you have a set of drawing sets. The drawing set also performs almost the same function as your rulers, but now it depends on the surface on which you want to work on. You don't use your ruler on a very short surface, so you probably will use these drawing sets. And when you want to make your patterns too, they are very convenient for you. Here we have what we call the French curves and the flexible curves. Because the human body is not straight, there are different contours on the body. We use these things to achieve those curves that are on the body. So when you want to mark your clothes, these curves are very necessary for you. Yeah, as we progress, now we're going to show you some other things that you might get acquainted to in the course of work. Yes, you also have your pressing iron. Your pressing iron is very important because there's no task you can do without the pressing iron. You definitely have to iron your clothes as you work. If not, you don't get a finished work. And for these fusibles beside the iron here, you cannot apply them on your fabrics without the pressing iron. So the pressing iron is very essential in the course of work too.